is unheard of for leadership opportunities in many companies. And so if I were to pick words, a couple words to describe it, I would say it was definitely difficult, worthwhile, and ended with growth and leadership opportunities.
Yeah, I would say, Tayo, you summed it up very well. It's definitely a difficult transition because you haven't really experienced anything like that before. And I think specifically, like my experience at PepsiCo, and I think probably all the women on this call can attest to this, is you're handed a lot of responsibility right from the start. So there's no kind of easing into things. It's like you're expected to be able to learn quickly and kind of ask questions as you need them, but really take responsibility for your scope of work, which is a really empowering thing coming out of college, like being given a lot of responsibility. With that comes a little bit of challenges, right? So I think that was my biggest thing, to Tayo's point, huge learning opportunity about myself, what I was capable of, kind of what I needed to do to ask for help and who I needed to ask for help. So I think it was just a really big learning opportunity and a really big change of pace from what I was used to, and really shows you kind of what you're capable of.
Thank you. Yeah, I can relate a lot to what Tayo and Megan share, and I think something that it's difficult to do as well, but I think it's important when you are in that phase where a lot of things are challenging and new, and you're in this uncomfortable zone, we can call it, like have patience with yourself. It's true, like we have a lot of responsibility and you need to deliver results, but like also that learning curve is coming. So it's okay for you to have some patience with yourself. And I think something really important that you mentioned, Megan, being able to ask for help. I think that's expected and normal. And sometimes you might feel afraid, but really people are willing to help and happy to do so. So I think that's something to leverage a lot at the beginning and in your career in general.
Great answers. Yeah, I think for me, definitely just a big change, professionally and in life. I had to move and get settled in a new city, and then also learn a new role. And then I also was moved 6 months into a different team. So just, I think being flexible and just remembering that you're just there to learn more than anything that first year is really important. And so also, some of us that, at least for me, I've been here only for 2 years. So I think at this point I've worked virtually longer than I've worked in an office. So would love to hear from everyone, how has this virtual environment affected your work? And, what challenges come with that as well? Because I'm sure everyone on the call can relate to changing to a virtual everything has been, very interesting experience.
Yeah, so I can provide some of my thoughts on it. So we at PepsiCo, in a lot of functions prior to COVID, would work in the office like 4 days a week, and it was typical that people would work from home 1 day a week. And I personally would go into the office every day because I did not like working from home. I just felt I couldn't be productive, and I just didn't like it. So when COVID happened and we were all virtual all the time, I had a really difficult time transitioning to that. I think what had helped me, now I love it. Now I love working from home. And I think what really helped was just getting into a routine, kind of being patient, like what Maho said, just being patient with the fact that things are different. There's challenges that come with working in a virtual world. But over time, the connectivity that I have with people that I previously didn't have is very different. So now on all the calls that I'm on with external partners and internal, everyone has their camera on. And there's people that I didn't see their faces before COVID happened because we were in conference rooms and they were dialing in on the phone. And now I know what they look like, and I've met their families on Zoom and things like that. So there's different things I value now that prior, when we were in the office, I don't think I had as much visibility to the human side to everyone that I work with. So I think that's something that's been a positive that I've seen in my team, and then also just working with external partners, which I think we all do at PepsiCo.
Thank you, Megan. I think if I can share my thought as well, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, and like Megan just shared, especially in R&D, like we used to go to the office every day. So that shift to working at home at the beginning for me was challenging in terms of, and I'm sure you have lived this as well, setting limits of when to start and finish work. I felt that I never stopped, like I was just eating, going to sleep, computer. So I felt that that was really challenging at the beginning for me and was getting really exhausted. And now that it has become longer and I have kind of like adjusted more and find my routine, I think what Megan mentioned, I like it a lot now. I feel it gives a lot of flexibility in terms of planning your life, like, oh, I can eat better maybe, or I can do sports in the morning, or even in late in the afternoon because you don't have as much as a commute. So I think in like personal life balance, I felt I kind of lived through a roller coaster, but I feel a lot more stable and see the benefits now.
Thanks for sharing, Maho. And I would say my experience has been similar to yours and Megan's. And I guess it's about half of my career that will be spent virtual, maybe longer. We'll see how this goes. But my transition was interesting. I went from being in a plant where we're always on site, there's no working from home, well, previously, to headquarters. So I guess half day Fridays or work from home Fridays, which I, like you, Megan, didn't utilize. And that was from October of 2019 to early March of 2020. So that was the amount of time I spent in our headquarters office before becoming virtual. So for me, it has been interesting trying to navigate and network within a new department. I spent roughly 5 months before we transitioned to work from home. So there's no like bumping into people at their desk or the coffee area, wherever it might be. But I think it has been a great experience for me. I had a transition as well, like you ladies both mentioned, but I ultimately really like it and found new ways of working and enjoy the flexibility personally it gives me. I definitely think you mentioned, Maho, eating better. Meal prep, if I don't do it the night before, it's okay. I can squeeze in a little time during the day. So I enjoy it. And I think back to what you had said, Rachel, about switching teams, I think it applies to all aspects of your life. If you're flexible and just really receptive to change, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And it's helpful that more people than just you were going through it, like we were all kind of in it together. So that was interesting too, to talk to people about their challenges and experiences, especially in the beginning. So that part of it was funny for me. But yeah, I think I'm going to just ask one more question and then we'll open it up to everyone if you guys have anything that you'd like to ask us. So what are your likes and dislikes about the role that you're currently in? So if you could give examples or just things that you really love about what you do and some of the things that maybe are more of a challenge for you or that you dislike more so in your role.
I can go first. I think in my role as a product developer, I really enjoy the consumer interface and actually just what you alluded earlier, Rachel, like just running tests and being in the lab and being in the kitchen and interacting with other scientists and chefs. Like I feel in my zone happy in there. I feel, like you empowered and that you give recommendations to the business. So I really enjoyed that part. Another part, on the contrary, that I feel more challenged is when it comes to like delivering results on a specific or very short timeline because that's what it's needed. And when you need to start doing trade-offs of which trials do you need to run, or maybe we cannot use this ingredient because it's too expensive, or some of those conversations sometimes might be challenging. And of course, they get easy with time because you start learning. But yeah, I would say that's for me.
I can go. So I think what I like most about my current role is having the ability to contribute to a sustainability objective that the broader company has. So as part of my current role, I buy electricity. So one of the commitments that we've made is to source 100% renewable electricity. So that's something that I have an opportunity to work on every day. And it's something that I wake up and am passionate about, kind of making a difference in that area and related to a broader PepsiCo global goal. So that's probably one of my favorite things. Um, Things that I don't like, or a challenge, I would say, is some projects that are very cross-functional. So I think procurement is one, R&D, supply chain. A lot of the functions that you would work in as an engineer are very cross-functional roles in that you're working with your function, but then you're also working with other functions. Sometimes that can get challenging when you're working on a project and there's so many people involved and trying to ensure that decisions are getting made on time and the right people are engaged, working around other schedules. So I think some projects that are very cross-functional, that can create challenges, but also can be really rewarding when they go well. So those would be maybe my two top of mind.
Thanks, Megan. Similarly, I work in a sustainability space, so I enjoy that as well, being a part of something that's good for our planet. So I work in, like I mentioned, on the flexible packaging team, so we're moving to 100% RCB compliant, and greenhouse gas reduction is wrapped up in that as well. And I enjoy working cross-functionally. I mentioned being in proximity to that technical space with R&D is something I really enjoy. One of the things that's hard in the space is we're, I guess, on the forefront of innovation and cutting edge in the material or structure we're using for our packaging. So there are a lot of technical milestones we have to hit. Meanwhile, the business is pushing us to make sure we meet our goals, because of course we made the commitment to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So we have a specific year in mind as a deadline, and there's a lot of money that goes along with that, and trying to create a glide path that all members of the organization, finance, R&D, supply chain, procurement, are aligned with, and it's a pretty big ship PepsiCo is to try and steer and move and redirect. So a lot of growing pains in that, but enjoying the process for the most.
Awesome. Yeah, I can share mine too. I'm like Maho. I really love like getting data and running trials. And, you know, if it's lab work too, if I can just get testing done and then analyze data, that's when I'm the happiest, because I love when numbers can tell me how to make a decision. And I think something that's maybe more challenging in my role, I'm in more of a project management role sometimes than a strictly engineering or a data focused role. So the project management side of it is more challenging for me because you really have to rely on a lot of people to give you either information that you need or material that you need. So coordinating all of that and kind of just making sure that it all happens at the same time and leading to that end goal in a project. That's something that I think is the most challenging part for me personally. So, but it's been good learning for me too. So I like that as well. But so yeah, I think went through a lot of information there. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about us as women engineers and as people who work at PepsiCo. So if you have any questions just in general about PepsiCo, about SWE, about our roles and our projects, you know, happy to answer those now. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Feel free to unmute. Again, you've heard these ladies talk for almost an hour now, so you know they don't bite now. So again, feel free to unmute. They're very sweet. Any questions at all, turn on your camera. They're more than willing to answer anything at all.
I've got a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. You go ahead first, and then Shreya will go next.
Okay. Hi. I am completely new to SWE. I joined the student organization and clicked the join button today. So, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for our lovely ladies at PepsiCo?
I was just wondering about, maybe you guys probably touched upon it a little bit about like the internship process. Was PepsiCo your first internship, or did you guys, consider, do any other internships beforehand? Because, I've never done an internship yet, but I'm a junior and, going into the career fair, like, how do you go about the dilemma of you're wanting to get an internship, but they'd like some experience from you, but you've never done an internship before. So what experience did you have to show?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I can talk to it a little as it pertains to PepsiCo, but I'm sure the women on the call also have had internships elsewhere. So I think it is really a challenge when you're a junior and you're looking for an internship, or you're a sophomore and you're looking for an internship and you don't have past experience, because that is the first question you get. So I think getting creative with what you're involved in at school and what projects you've worked on to be able to showcase what skills you have learned that would be transferable to the working world is really the best that you can do. So I remember when I was in that case, I hadn't had any internships prior to my internship with PepsiCo, so I was in the exact same position. So I recall talking to recruiters about what my experience was in organizations in school. So what like leadership positions I had had in organizations, or just my involvement in different organizations at school, what projects I was working on, and like what I was really passionate about when it came to my schoolwork. And then I also, like specifically, I was very interested in working for PepsiCo. So I did a lot of research on like what was PepsiCo doing, what kind of initiatives did they have that were of interest to me, to have good talking points when I went to speak with those representatives who were at the booth at the career fair, or virtual, maybe in your guys' case, to have a little bit of knowledge instead of just saying, "Hey, what do you do?" So those were some things that were helpful for me. But Maho, Tayo, Rachel, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think those are amazing points, Megan. And I didn't intern with PepsiCo, but I did have an internship, different major at the time. It was industrial and systems, but also all experience. I interned with a company for about 9 months. And I think what you mentioned is extremely relevant. I talked about my involvement in leadership experience with, at the time, the National Society of Black Engineers. I also saw some of my peers looking for research opportunities. If there was a professor who was willing to take on an undergrad, and just getting any type of experience, whether paid, unpaid, in leadership or technical, which I think research is the best way to do that. And then one of the things that I think was key to me getting my internship sophomore year was that practice Megan mentioned, right? I had been going to career fairs since freshman year, even though they weren't looking to hire freshmen. And I was part of organizations that made it a point to place us in front of companies for mock interviews. They did resume reviews, just really making sure we were prepared for the career fairs and prepared for interviews, and had an elevator pitch ready at a moment's notice. And one of the strategies I also took into the career fair was looking to talk to smaller companies, which I ended up getting an internship with a larger company, but looking to talk to smaller companies because they are usually a little bit more flexible in what year they hire. I believe most are looking for sophomores or juniors, but you can find some other opportunities with smaller companies as well. Of course, we want you guys to come to PepsiCo. But that's one strategy I used, and you can use it not just seeking an internship, but for practice. If PepsiCo is your goal, but you're looking to practice, or you're not ready to talk to a specific company yet, I think it's important to like shop around and make sure that you have that practice talking to companies that you may not have as much interest in.
That was a great answer. And one of the clubs that might help you is sweet. So pay attention to the events that we have, because we do a lot to help you prep for intern fairs and career fairs. But Shreya, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, if it's still relevant or if it was already answered, but go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Shreya. I'm a freshman this year, and thank you so much for coming to talk to us. It was really interesting, and thanks to P at UTD for organizing this. So my question is like a little off topic, I guess, but I wanted to know, like, we all have like expectations about like what work life is gonna be like in college, and like I know I do too, like now. But can you share like how your work experience was like different in a positive or negative way from like what you expected it to be like when you were in college?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely different than I expected in college. But I think being in college, it was always like I was always working. Like you always have something to stress about until the semester ends. So there's always a test to study for or homework to do or something. But one thing that's like really different at work is you can kind of, you know, hopefully when you log off for the day, you are not thinking about work anymore. So that's something that I wasn't expecting as much when I started working at Pepsi. You know, like you have, you know, your set hours or you're working on a specific goal or project, but then it's not like that follows you for the rest of your day or into the weekend, you know. So I think that was a difference that I really like that I wasn't necessarily expecting when I started working.
Yes, and I would like to add, yes, I feel very similar to you, Rachel, especially the weekends that I feel that, oh yeah, I can finally do something else and not actually think about school. And I think something that I will like to add as well, I think having projects at work and really seeing the impact that you have of a bigger thing that will come a reality. And I think we talked a little bit about that on what do we like in our current roles, that really keeps you engaged in what you are doing and your projects and actually seeing them call live. And so I think that's something that I didn't experience as much in school, and so I appreciate it.
I think to add on to that, one expectation I didn't have, I guess, going into the workforce from college, specifically for supply chain, is how much responsibility or freedom I would get in my first role. I basically was given free reign within reason, but with capital projects, with developing my team, and all of those things were really positive, and as I mentioned, ended up in growth and leadership opportunities. But I think my expectation was that maybe they wouldn't trust us enough. We would be spoon-fed what our assignments or tasks would be, but it's really up to you to take initiative and run with it, which is nice.
Maybe one other thing from my perspective, this may be a silly one, but I don't think I thought of mentorship going beyond college. I feel like when I was in college, it was really clear, like I had a professor who I considered a mentor throughout my career in college. And I just thought that would kind of stop after graduating. And I didn't realize in the corporate environment or in any work environment that there really are so many people who you're surrounded with that are willing and able and want to help you learn and grow personally and professionally. So I think that was something that surprised me. I've had a lot of mentors in only 3 years of working at the company, and it's something that I look forward to getting to a point where I can mentor other people. So that's something I just wasn't expecting to come out of a work environment. That's been a pleasant surprise.
Any other questions? Last couple of chances. Going once, going twice. You saw they don't bite. Okay, I'm gonna say that there's no more questions from our audience. So I'm gonna go ahead and if there's nothing else to add from PepsiCo side, I will go ahead start wrapping up the event. Again, no more questions. Just a quick out there. Just one more chance. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. So thank you all coming out for the first event for SWE. Keep a lookout for all the other ones coming in September. But thank you so much to our lovely panelists, everything that you provided our students today with the advice, the insight into professional SWE at PepsiCo, and so much more was very, very well received and grateful for. So find these lovely ladies on LinkedIn, connect with them, learn about the networking and finding mentors now. And I bet all of them would be more than happy to answer any questions you have for them if you don't want to ask it now, later on. But again, thank you so much for being our lovely panelists for our first event. And thank you everyone for coming out. I really appreciate it. So you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Nice
thank
to
you
meet
for
everyone.
being here today. Have a good evening.
Have a good one.
Bye.